Um, Salakia, my phone ended up cutting off again. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I think it's Satan. The motherfucker doesn't want this to come out, but fuck him. We're gonna keep on doing it. But I'm gonna go ahead and read this back. It says, in one account of the brutality, Danish immigrant Hans Jasperson, in his 1911 autobiography, said he walked among the bodies, counting 493 Shoshone Indians dead, according to a 2008 article in the Salt Lake Tribune. Jasperson wrote, I turned around and counted them back and counted just the same. Again, like I said, I do believe that the numbers are suppressed. You know, Esau always be suppressing the numbers, you know, always be changing history, trying to make it seem like it wasn't that bad, even though 350 is a shit ton. But this guy says it was 400, he counted 493 people dead, of Gadites that died in just this massacre alone. That's the reason why this one is considered the most brutal massacre that the U.S. cavalry did upon Gad. And this is just one out of many, though. There's many massacres that Esau did. Many raids that he did upon Gad and to try to wipe him out. So he can take over the lands. That was the whole goal. Land control. Through a thing that he called, excuse me, through a thing that he would eventually come to call manifest destiny. Which is a way of him uh, exempting himself from all wrongdoing, and saying, hey, it was his destiny. It was his God-given right, pretty much, right? But let's continue on. It says, I turned around and counted them back and counted just the same. Historians said about 2 dozen U.S. soldiers died at Bear River. It says, it almost annihilated us as a people, said Darren B. Perry, former chairman of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation. But it's largely been forgotten. Many historians say the biggest reason the Bear River slaying is lost or ignored in history lessons is because its carnage was eclipsed by civil war battles raging at the time, according to Charles S. Peterson, a historian at Utah State University who wrote the foreword on a book called The Shoshone Frontier and the Bear River Massacre. He said it's ironic that it received so little attention given the well-known Native American woman Sacagawea was Shoshone and became famous for having served as a guide to explorers Lewis and Clark. Damn sellout. Eve has always been Eve is always, you know, taking on the side of the fucking serpent, man. Since the beginning, right? You had Eve taking on the side of the serpent, and that's all the same to now, man. But let's continue on. It's almost like, Eve and the damn serpent have an infinity towards each other. But anyway, it says, um, we'll skip that. It says Jonathan Dace, a military historian based in Washington, compared the slaying of Native Americans in the 1800s to mass shootings in the 21st century. People become numb to them, Dees said, right? Pretty much saying that, there was so much raids, so much massacres done to the Native Americans that it wasn't even news. You would hear it all the time, right? Just like you have mass shootings here, you hear it all the time now. But back then, them killings that Esau did against Gad, it was common news to them. Which is like, oh, another one. right? But continuing on, it says people considered Indians not really humans. Hey, same boat as the Southern Kingdom, right? They weren't looked at by Esau as being humans, right? They called us what, savages, Indians, as in a way of to excuse them to do what they did, right? Which is kill, genocide, enslave, all manner of bullshit, man. Well, let's continue on. It says, um, so it was easily to justify killing them or mistreating them. Hey, there you go. He says it right there. Let me read this again. People considered Indians not really humans, Dace added. So it was easy to justify killing them or mistreating them. The Shoshones were once a nation that had 17,000 people that included several bands that stretched across parts of Nevada, Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming. They traveled with the seasons. In early autumn, they went to Salmon, Idaho to fish. Excuse me. In the spring and summer, they would go to Utah to gather seeds, berries, and roots. When cold weather hit, they hunkered down in the Cache Valley, which runs through northern Utah and southeast Idaho. The willow and sagebrush in the valley helped protect them from the wind and snow of winter blizzards, and the Big River, or Boa Ogoy, as the Shoshones called it, had an abundance of fish. Plus, the area was rich with wild game. Jake was eating good then. Jake was eating good. That's one thing too that Esau tried to do was in the plains. He tried to wipe out the buffalo, so that way Gad wouldn't have no source of food. Because you had some Gadites that was pretty much their food source was the buffalo. Esau would always try to attack, always try to figure out ways to destroy Jake. Always planting, plotting, scheming. That's the devil for you, man. But let's continue on. It says, in the 1800s, the Shoshones and other tribes faced a slew of hardships and troubles as the U.S. government wanted to rid the country of what officials called the Indian problem. Settlers moving west and Mormon farmers invaded Shoshone land, and miners caused skirmishes as they passed through on their way west to find gold. Hey, that was all. That's Esau's MO, man. Just to take what's not theirs. They just came and took it. Like the scripture says, the violent take it by force. Who's the violent? Esau. This man has the blessing of the sword, so that's why he was able to take down Gad the way that he did. The damn Gatling gun, having the cavalry and the fucking rifles and shit. Hey, but that was all, you know, foretold to happen, man. That we were going to fall like that. We were going to fall and be under the hand of Esau, right? Ultimately, for our transgressions. So even as of now, we know we're still paying, and we're still under the curses. But soon Esau is going to pay for all the shit that he's done, right? And no one can say, hey, out of all the shit that this man's done, his damn track record speaks for itself. We're and I guess you could say entitled. We're entitled to hate this man. There's no reason not to hate this man, right? But let's continue on. It says, after the Civil War started in 1861, President Abraham Lincoln sent regiments from the 3rd Regiment California Volunteer Infantry in the Union Army, who were stationed at Fort Douglas near Salt Lake City to help protect the mail routes and telegraph lines that ran through the Cache Valley area. But many of the troops were frustrated that they were there and wanted to be on the front lines of the Civil War. On January 5th, 1863, 10 miners traveling south on the Montana Trail, were said to have been murdered by Indians. A day later, a group of white men headed to Salt Lake City got lost and were allegedly robbed by Indians. In an argument about returning some livestock, a white man named John H. Smith was fatally shot. A judge issued a warrant for some of the Shoshone men who were accused of killing him, with orders for U.S. Army Colonel Patrick E. Connor, excuse me, it says to effect the arrest of the guilty Indians. According to records from the National Park Service, according to the records from the National Park Service, by then, cold weather has set in and the Shoshones were in their winter grounds for the season. But when a spiritual leader told of a dream where Indians were killed by soldiers on horseback, about 50 left and went to another site, but many stayed with Shoshone chief Sagwitch. How can you move people in 4 feet of snow to anywhere you could